Tom navigated the bustling corridors of the Galactic hub's spaceport with practiced ease, his eyes scanning the diverse crowd. The port was a melting pot of species and civilizations, each corner echoing with 100 languages, the air filled with the scents of exotic spices and ionized fuel. It was here, among the transient chaos of traders and travelers, that Tom had arranged to meet a potential business partner. He paused at a small cafe overlooking the docking bays, where ships of varying designs and origins hummed quietly. At one of the tables sat Mira, her features distinctly non-human with her elongated limbs and iridescent skin, marking her as a member of the Thalassians. Her people, known for their intellectual prowess and cool demeanor towards humans, were rare sights on such a neutral ground. Tom approached the table, his steps deliberate. "Mira, I presume?" he asked, extending his hand. Mira looked up from her device, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You're Tom?" Her voice carried a musical quality, tinged with caution. "That's me," Tom smiled, taking a seat opposite her. "Thanks for meeting me. I know it's not every day that a Thalassian sits down with a human, especially not in a place as chaotic as this." Mira nodded, folding her hands on the table. "Your message mentioned you have a proposition that could benefit my people. I'm intrigued but skeptical. We have found that human deals often come with complications." "I understand your concern," Tom replied, leaning back. "I deal in rare artifacts and technology. My aim is to bridge cultural gaps, not exploit them. I believe I have something that might interest you." From his bag, Tom produced a small, sealed crate. He opened it to reveal an artifact, its surface swirling with colors that seemed to move under the light. Mira leaned forward, her expression softening with curiosity. "This is remarkable. What is it?" "It's a precursor memory stone, believed to enhance mental capacity and retain ancestral memories. My hope is to exchange it for some Thalassian tech, to help both our peoples learn from each other." Mira touched the stone lightly, her face reflecting the swirls of color. "This could indeed be very valuable to us." "Your offer is generous, Tom. Perhaps I was too quick to judge." Tom's smile widened. "I'm glad to hear that. And if it's not too much, I'd like to learn more about Thalassian culture. Maybe, in exchange, I could share more about humans. Misunderstandings often come from lack of knowledge." Mira considered this for a moment, then nodded. "That sounds like a fair exchange. We can start now. What would you like to know?" As the two delved into a deep discussion, the spaceport around them continued to buzz with activity. The first seeds of understanding were being planted, promising the beginning of something new and potentially transformative for both. In the privacy of Tom's ship, orbiting the gas giant Zephyra, the atmosphere was quieter, almost introspective compared to the ceaseless activity of the spaceport. Mira stood by a large viewport, watching the swirling clouds of the planet below, while Tom prepared some refreshments in the small kitchenette. "Zephyra is a sight, isn't it?" Tom commented as he approached, handing Mira a cup filled with a warm, aromatic drink. "It's a rare view. Not many ships come out this far unless they're on specific trade routes." Mira accepted the drink, her fingers brushing against his in a tentative gesture of familiarity. "It's beautiful," she admitted, her gaze still fixed on the view outside. "And very different from anything in Thalassian space." Tom joined her at the viewport. "I like to think that places like this remind us how diverse the universe is, and how little we know, even now." Mira turned to face him, the ambient light casting soft highlights on her iridescent skin. "And yet, humans seem eager to reach every corner of it. What drives that curiosity, Tom? Is it a desire for wealth, power, or something more?" Tom considered her question, his expression thoughtful. "For some, it might be wealth or power, but for many of us, it's about understanding and connection. There's a lot of beauty out there, and a lot of lessons to learn from beings like you." Mira sipped her drink, looking thoughtful. "My people are cautious. We've had to be. Our planet isn't just our home. It's our sanctuary. Trust is not given easily, especially to outsiders." "That's fair." Tom nodded. "Trust has to be earned. After all, I hope in time I can earn yours." The conversation paused as the ship's system pinged softly, indicating a scheduled course check. Tom walked over to the control panel, tapping in a few commands. Want to help me with the navigation? It might give you a better feel for the ship. Curious, Mira joined him at the console. What do you need me to do? Just follow the prompts on the screen there. It'll take us through a diagnostic check of our current trajectory and engine status. As Mira interacted with the ship system, Tom watched her, appreciating her quick adaptability. You catch on fast, he remarked. It's not so different from our systems, just more tactile, less intuitive. That's a human trait, I suppose. We like buttons and switches, Tom chuckled. Makes us feel like we're really doing something. Mira smiled, a genuine expression that reached her eyes. There's something reassuring about that, I guess. Physicality. Exactly, Tom agreed. Speaking of which, I have something else to show you. Something I think could be a real bridge between our peoples. He led her to a secure storage area where he kept a collection of cultural artifacts and technological devices from different civilizations. He carefully picked up a small, intricate device, handing it to Mira. This is a neural enhancer. It's designed to facilitate learning languages. I thought it might help bridge the gap between our species more effectively. Mira examined the device with interest, then looked up at Tom with newfound respect. You're full of surprises, Tom. This could change a lot for us. I hope so, Tom said earnestly. I believe understanding each other's languages, cultures. It's the first step towards real friendship. Mira nodded slowly, her earlier skepticism giving way to a cautious optimism. Perhaps this is the beginning of something good. As they talked, the distance between human and alien seemed to shrink, not just in the confines of the ship, but in the possibilities that lay ahead. Tom and Mira disembarked at the Interstellar Museum of Shared Heritage, a monumental structure floating at the edge of the Andromeda Gateway. The museum, renowned for its collection of artifacts from countless civilizations, served as a neutral zone for cultural exchange. As they walked through the grand entrance, Tom pointed out various exhibits that showcased human achievements and histories. This place is a cross-section of galactic life, he explained. Every item here tells a story, a piece of a puzzle about who we are, where we come from. Mira, taking in the vast array of displays, seemed particularly drawn to a section dedicated to ancient human exploratory vessels. Your ancestors were brave, she remarked, studying the details of a replica spacecraft. Venturing into the unknown with such primitive technology. Tom chuckled. Bravery or foolishness, it's hard to tell sometimes. But yes, exploration is in our nature. And what about the Thalassians? What drives your people? Mira led him to a nearby exhibit that showcased Thalassian art. For us, it's about understanding the cosmos through reflection and art. Our explorations are more introspective, philosophical. Their conversation deepened as they moved through the museum, discussing their respective cultures' philosophies, technologies, and arts. Each exhibit provided a new topic, a new point of connection, and sometimes friendly debate. At one interactive display, visitors could experience a simulation of different planetary environments. Tom gestured for Mira to join him in a simulation of a human tropical zone. As the environment around them shifted to display lush greenery and a warm breeze, Tom observed, "This is much like Earth's Amazon before it was fully conserved." Mira, visibly relaxed by the simulated warmth, inquired, "And your people managed to restore it?" "Yes, it was a combined effort over generations. It taught us the importance of environmental stewardship," Tom replied. "What about Thalassia? How do you manage your ecosystems?" Mira responded with pride. "Thalassia is a garden world. We learned early on that the well-being of our planet directly affects our own. We integrate technology with nature, ensuring they enhance each other rather than compete." As they exited the simulation, they passed a section devoted to technological advancements in communication. Tom demonstrated a human-invented device that allowed real-time translation of over 1,000 languages. Mira was impressed. This could be invaluable for our diplomatic corps. Understanding each other's words in real time, without delays for translation. Imagine the misunderstandings it could prevent. Yes, Tom agreed, his tone hopeful. Imagine if our first diplomats had this technology. Their tour continued with discussions on architecture, governance, and philosophy. At each turn, Tom and Mira shared insights from their worlds, growing more comfortable and open with each other. As they approached the end of their visit, Tom stopped by a small, less conspicuous exhibit, a collection of personal items from individuals who had made significant cultural contributions. Picking up a holographic photo, he said, "These are the people behind the history. It's easy to forget that behind every invention, every decision that shaped our worlds, there were individuals. People like you and me, trying to make a difference." Mira nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps that is something both our peoples can agree on. The impact of the individual. As they left the museum, the lights of the gateway twinkling in the distance, Tom felt a sense of accomplishment. Not just in what he'd shown Mira, but in what he'd learned from her. Their exchange was more than just words. It was the beginning of understanding, a bridge being built one story at a time. Back on Tom's ship, now docked at a quiet station orbiting a serene blue planet, the atmosphere had shifted to one of more personal exploration. They sat in Tom's private quarters, a cozy room lined with books and personal memorabilia from his travels. Tom handed Mira a small, old book, its cover worn. "This is one of my favorite pieces," he explained, opening it to a well-thumbed page. It's a collection of poems by a human author who believed deeply in the power of connection and understanding between diverse peoples. Mira took the book gently, her fingers tracing the faded letters. "You humans put much emotion into your written words." "It's quite compelling," she observed, reading a few lines aloud. Her pronunciation was careful, almost reverent. "Yes, we find comfort and inspiration in words," Tom agreed, watching her reaction. "Do the Thalassians have a similar tradition?" "We do," Mira nodded, handing the book back. "Our expressions are often more visual, through art and music, but the intent is similar, to evoke feelings and share perspectives." Their discussions soon turned to music, a universal language in its own right. Tom pulled up a selection of human classical music on his ship's audio system. "Listen to this," he suggested, playing a soft, intricate symphony. It's been said this composer could depict the rise and fall of empires with his melodies. Mira listened intently, closing her eyes to better absorb the waves of sound. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Thalassian music also strives to capture the essence of our history and emotions, though perhaps with different sounds. Encouraged by her interest, Tom proposed, "Why don't you show me some of your music? I'd love to hear what Thalassian history sounds like." Mira accessed her communicator, quickly syncing it with Tom's audio system. A flowing, ethereal melody filled the room, the sounds almost visual in their texture, creating an atmosphere that seemed to transport them to another place. "It's incredible," Tom said genuinely, lost in the layers of sound. "It feels like I can see your world through the notes." They spent hours exchanging cultural artifacts and stories, each piece of music or literature pulling them closer, bridging the gap between human and Thalassian worlds through shared appreciation and understanding. As the evening wore on, they found themselves talking of dreams and fears, the conversation drifting naturally. Tom confessed his fear of the vast unknown, despite, or perhaps because of, his background as a traveler and trader. Mira shared her own fears, her voice softening. "In our pursuit of balance and harmony, we sometimes fear the chaos that comes with deep change. But tonight, sharing this with you, I think some fears are worth facing." Tom nodded in agreement, feeling a profound connection. "It's strange, isn't it? How sharing our cultures, our music, our fears, can make the universe seem a little smaller, a little more familiar." "Yes," Mira replied, a smile playing on her lips. "It's more than just learning about each other. It's about understanding each other on a level that goes beyond words or even music." Their evening ended with a promise to explore more of each other's worlds, not just the cultural aspects, but also the personal elements that made them who they were. As Mira left Tom's quarters to return to her own, there was a silent acknowledgement between them, an unspoken recognition of the closeness they had achieved, a closeness neither had anticipated but both valued deeply. Tom had set up a special evening on the observation deck of his ship, designed to showcase human hospitality. The deck was arrayed with soft lighting, and a small table laid out with a variety of human and Thalassian delicacies, creating an inviting atmosphere. As Mira entered the deck, her eyes widened in appreciation. "This looks wonderful, Tom," Mira commented, taking in the setup with a delighted gaze. "You've gone to great lengths to blend our cultures." Tom smiled as he pulled out a chair for her. "I thought it would be nice to have a taste of both worlds together. It's a small way to celebrate our new friendship." As they sat, Tom poured a light, sparkling beverage for both of them. "This is a traditional human toast drink, but I've adapted it with a hint of Thalassian fruit for flavor," he explained. Mira took a sip and smiled. "It's delicious. You've managed to capture a bit of Thalassia in it. That's quite thoughtful." They began their meal, discussing the nuances of each dish. Tom was eager to see Myra's reaction to some human flavors, and she was equally curious about his take on her planet's cuisine. After they finished eating, Tom suggested a walk around the deck. The ship was currently orbiting a planet with a particularly stunning nebula view. As they strolled, they approached the railing, looking out into the vastness of space. "It's beautiful, isn't it? The way the nebula's colors blend into the darkness," Tom said, his voice soft with wonder. "Yes, it's like a painting," Mira agreed. "In Thalassian art, we use colors to express emotions. What does this view make you feel?" Tom thought for a moment, then replied, "Hopeful, I guess. And a bit small in the grand scheme of things." Mira nodded thoughtfully, then turned slightly to face Tom. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course," Tom responded, turning to meet her gaze. "How do humans perceive touch? I mean, I know it's a big part of your interactions, but what does it really mean to you?" Tom considered her question. Touch can mean many things: comfort, support, affection. It connects us in ways words often can't. Mira looked down, then back up at him. "Would you show me? I mean, would you teach me about human touch?" Tom felt a surge of warmth at her request. "Sure, if you're comfortable with it." He gently took her hand, guiding it with his own. "This is a simple gesture among friends," he explained. Then, placing his other hand on her shoulder, he continued, "And this is a sign of comfort." Myra's eyes followed their hands, and she mirrored his actions, placing her hand on his shoulder. "Like this?" "Yes, exactly like that." Tom's voice was encouraging. "It's about sharing warmth and support." Myra's touch was tentative at first but grew more confident as they continued to explore the different expressions of human touch, from a reassuring pat on the back to a warm, lingering handhold. As they practiced, the initial awkwardness gave way to a more natural, fluid interaction. Mira was a quick learner, and soon, she was responding to Tom's gestures with an intuitive understanding of their meanings. "I think I'm beginning to understand," Mira said softly, her hand still in his. "It's quite profound, how something so simple can convey so much." Tom nodded, his eyes meeting hers with a depth of feeling he hadn't anticipated. "It's one of my favorite things about being human," he admitted. Their session ended with a sense of mutual appreciation for the other's willingness to share and learn. As they parted ways for the night, there was a palpable sense of connection that had been deepened by their exchange, a bridge built not just through words but through the silent language of touch. The ship's garden was designed to emulate a peaceful Earth-like environment, complete with simulated starlight and the soft sounds of nocturnal wildlife. It was here that Tom decided to share another piece of his culture with Mira, the concept of romantic expressions under the stars. As they entered the garden, Mira looked around in awe. The holographic sky twinkled above them, and the scent of night-blooming flowers filled the air. "It's like stepping into another world," she remarked, her voice filled with wonder. Tom smiled, pleased by her reaction. "I hoped you'd like it. There's something about a starlit night that feels perfect for more intimate conversations." They walked along a path lined with softly glowing plants, the atmosphere inviting and serene. Eventually, they settled on a bench under a holographic oak tree. Tom turned to Mira, his expression earnest. "Back on Earth, a night like this is often a backdrop for deeper connections. People talk about their hopes, their dreams. Sometimes they even fall in love." Myra's gaze met his, curiosity piqued. "And do these nights usually lead to romance?" "Sometimes, yes," Tom replied. "It's not just the setting. It's about the moment, the connection between two people. It's about feeling close enough to share a kiss. A kiss, Mira repeated softly, the concept not entirely alien but certainly rare in her own culture. Yes, a kiss can mean many things, Tom explained. Friendship, respect, or romantic interest. It's a human expression of affection. Mira considered this, then looked at Tom with a newfound understanding. Would you show me? Tom felt his heart beat faster, but he nodded, wanting to honor her request with the gravity it deserved. Only if you're sure. I am, Mira affirmed. I trust you, Tom. He moved closer, his voice gentle. It starts like this. He reached out, brushing a strand of her hair away from her face. An intimate gesture met with a quiet acceptance. Slowly, carefully, Tom leaned in. Mira closed her eyes, and their lips met softly. The kiss was gentle, exploratory, a tender moment of human Thalassian connection that seemed to hold the weight of the stars above them. As they parted, Mira opened her eyes, her expression one of deep contemplation. That was different from what I expected. Warm, comforting. Tom smiled, relieved and happy. That's a good description. It's about sharing warmth, like our discussions on touch. They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the night around them. Then Mira spoke again, her voice soft but confident. I understand better now why humans value such expressions. It's quite powerful. Would you like to try again? Tom asked, his tone light but sincere. Mira nodded, and they leaned in once more, this time with a sense of familiarity and a shared desire to deepen their connection. The kiss was longer, filled with the mutual trust and understanding they had built. Afterward, they continued to sit under the stars, talking quietly. They shared more about their dreams for the future, Mira's hopes for her people to embrace more of the galaxy's diverse cultures, and Tom's desire to bridge worlds through understanding and respect. As the night drew to a close, they both felt a profound shift in their relationship, a deepening bond framed by the stars and the quiet intimacy of their first kiss. After their first kiss under the simulated starlight, Tom and Mira found themselves at the threshold of a new and unexplored intimacy. The ship's soft hum in the background provided a comforting privacy as they made their way to Tom's quarters. As they entered the room, Tom paused, a sense of anticipation filling the air. Mira, I want to make sure you're comfortable with all of this, he said, his voice soft and caring. Anything we explore tonight is new for both of us, and I'm here with you, every step of the way. Mira nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and trust. I am comfortable, Tom. I want to understand more, to experience more of what makes humans. Human? Tom smiled warmly, his hand reaching out to gently hold hers. Let's take this slowly. He led her to the side of the bed, where they sat down together. The proximity was intimate, yet calming. He started by explaining more about human intimacy. For us, it's not just about the physical. It's about connecting on a deeper level, sharing emotions and vulnerabilities. Mira listened intently, her hand squeezing his slightly. And is it always like this? This feeling of closeness? It can be, Tom replied, especially when there's a strong bond, trust, and care involved. He paused, giving her a moment to absorb his words. Could you show me? Mira's voice was a whisper, but her intention was clear. She was ready to bridge yet another gap between their worlds. Tom nodded, and slowly, he leaned forward, initiating another kiss. This one was deeper, more assured, as both were more familiar with the gesture now. When they parted, there was a silent understanding that they were about to venture further. Tom gently touched her face, tracing the line of her jaw with his fingers, a gesture of affection and tenderness. Mira's breathing deepened, her eyes watching his every move with an intense focus. He continued with soft, respectful touches, guiding her through the experience with patience and attentiveness. Each touch was a word in their silent conversation, each glance a sentence. As their comfort with each other grew, so did their explorations. Tom's hands mapped a careful path across her shoulders, down her arms, each movement accompanied by his soft explanations of what he was doing and checking in with her comfort. Mira, in turn, began to respond in kind, her own hands exploring the unfamiliar terrain of a human's face, arms, and chest. Her touches were tentative at first, but grew more confident as Tom encouraged her with gentle affirmations. As they moved together onto the bed, the outside universe seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in their bubble of discovery. They shared their first, tentative moments of closer physical intimacy, exploring the differences and similarities between their species with a profound respect for each other's boundaries and comfort. "I never realized how powerful this could be," Mira confessed as they lay side by side afterward, their hands intertwined. Tom turned to look at her, his expression soft. "It's one of the most beautiful aspects of being human, sharing this with you, seeing it through your eyes. It's given it a whole new meaning for me as well." They spent the rest of the night talking, sharing stories of their planets, their peoples, and themselves. Each story, each laugh, each shared silence wove them closer together, not just as ambassador and explorer, but as two beings discovering the universal language of connection. As dawn approached, and the first artificial lights of morning began to glow through the windows, they both knew that something profound had shifted between them. A bridge had been built, not just of curiosity and cultural exchange, but of shared human experience, deepened by the uniqueness of their interspecies understanding. The gentle hum of the ship's engines served as a soft backdrop as Tom and Mira prepared for the next leg of their journey. The ship, now more than just a vessel but a shared home, was being stocked with supplies for their extended exploration of the galaxy. Tom handed Mira a data pad with the route they had planned together. "We've got a few stops plotted out. These are places where human and Thalassian interests might intersect in beneficial ways," he explained, pointing out a cluster of stars on the screen. Mira took the data pad, studying the map with interest. "I see you've included the Cygnus Cultural Exchange," she noted, her finger tracing the route. "It's a significant event for promoting understanding among species." "I'm glad we're going." Tom smiled, pleased by her enthusiasm. "I thought it would be the perfect place for us to start making a real difference. We've learned so much from each other. It's time to spread that knowledge." As they continued to prepare, their conversation flowed easily from logistical details to more personal topics, reflecting their deepened relationship. Mira paused, looking over at Tom. "You know, when I first agreed to meet you, I never imagined this would be where we'd end up. Not just traveling together, but actually sharing a life in a sense." Tom nodded, his expression reflective. "I feel the same. It's like we've started something that's bigger than either of us. What we have could change how humans and Thalassians see each other forever." Their preparations complete, they took a moment to enjoy a quiet break in the observation lounge. As they gazed out at the stars speeding past, Mira leaned her head against Tom's shoulder. "Do you think they'll accept us?" she asked quietly. "Both our peoples, seeing us together like this?" Tom put his arm around her, pulling her closer. "Some might struggle with it at first, but what we're doing, building bridges through personal connection, it's powerful. It's necessary. People will see that." Mira sighed, comforted by his optimism. "I hope you're right. And I hope our journey can be a beacon for others." They sat in silence for a while, each lost in thoughts of the future and what their partnership might achieve. Finally, Tom stood, offering Mira his hand. "Come on, let's check the navigation one last time. We should be approaching the first coordinates soon." Together, they returned to the cockpit, where Tom went through the pre-jump checks and Mira monitored the environmental controls. Their teamwork was seamless, a dance they had perfected over countless hours together. As the ship entered hyperspace, the familiar warp of light and shadow enveloped them. Tom looked over at Mira, who was watching the display with a serene expression. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" he said, a note of wonder in his voice. Mira smiled, her hand finding his and squeezing it gently. "Yes, the beginning of something wonderful." As the stars stretched into lines of light, Tom and Mira faced forward, their eyes fixed on the horizon. Behind them lay a past marked by curiosity and cautious diplomacy. Ahead lay a future filled with potential and the promise of shared dreams. They were no longer just representatives of their peoples, but pioneers of a new understanding, guardians of a hope that one day, all beings might look upon each other not as strangers, but as allies in the grand adventure of the cosmos.